FM, reaching our nation for God.
Hope is rising. Tell everybody, hope is rising. Yo, this is Emerald Henry representing for Hope 103.1 FM. Kaboom!
Yes, a blessed and pleasant good afternoon to everyone locked on to Hope 103.1 FM Grenada. It's a pleasure to have you guys with us today on this beautiful, I would say beautiful Thursday afternoon here in the Isle of Spice where everything is nice in Jesus Christ. But I know you don't know that everything is nice in Grenada. It's not just the spice, but it's nice in Jesus Christ. All right, so guys, today we are in for an awesome program. As you know, our program is entitled Restore, and we have some guests with us today. We have a guest with us today, well, and a returning guest. So you know when the cars get large, it's because something very interesting is about to go down. You understand? So I hope you guys, you are having a blessed day thus far, and I just want to encourage you to take an opportunity to take this time now and share this program with someone. I am DJ Sabi, the gospel servant. That's what they call me. All right. So let me get some folks on screen with me. Blessings to you, my brother Chess. How you doing, Bishop?
Hey, doing great, Sam. Good to see you. Blessings to all in Grenada and the islands of the Caribbean.
Yeah, things nice. we have the lady that always change her face when you see Thursday comes. Just you realize something always happened different.
I'm not getting into that, Sam.
Yeah, I agree with you. One thing I'll say, anytime you see me have a bald head, you just can't escape that. That's just me. That's the me I look, But I admire ladies for that kind of thing because they have a way to just change,
You get many different people in one.
In one, but yeah, it's a kind of unique thing, But nonetheless, let me see. And I know I can tell where she got it from because look at that.
I mean, you heard something else, man.
And little later, when the sun comes on, you realize you have something going on too. So you understand what going is a family affair. But nonetheless, I want to say thank you guys again for taking the time off to continue where we left off the last time. You know what I mean? So awesome program, and all the folks who are tuned in at this time, if you are an artist, if you are a musician, if you are whatever it is where music is concerned, I think you will really be interested in tuning in today, and I want to encourage you to share it with somebody. Even if you're just somebody that listens to music, I think it's a good thing for you to be here. And probably the next three, what God have in store, but we'd like to see probably the next 3 programs might be along that trajectory. So awesome. Yes. And this afternoon, Minister Cassandra have the pleasure in, introducing our guests today. So you notice I didn't bring him on screen as yet. I see him there, and I see put a smile on his face earlier on, so I know things good on his side. Yeah, I could tell. Good. So Minister Cassandra, you need to unmute your mic and do the honors. And when Joshua come in, we'll take it from there.
Good afternoon, Grenada and regions beyond. It's my pleasure, as usual, to be here with you to share and enjoy and fellowship another time. It's my pleasure this afternoon to invite a gentleman that I've known for quite a while, who has been to Tobago, Sabi, just like you, at my home. I've had the pleasure of taking care of he and his wife. And he has been a real icon in gospel music. A lot of people that passed through that stage of Barbados Gospel Fest, the exposure that they got is nothing more than phenomenal. So I will leave the rest of the introduction to him, right? As I said, it's my pleasure to invite to the platform no other than the man himself, Mr. Gospel Fest, Mr. Adrian Agard. Good afternoon.
Pleasant afternoon to you and to your colleagues there. It's wonderful to connect across the region in this way. Wonderful to connect in Grenada again. I haven't been there for a while, but good to see that the flag of Christ is still being flown there. And we're happy to be able to contribute in any way that we can to this process of making the gospel known.
All right, awesome. Minister, one of the things I didn't mention was what we're talking about today. Our topic or title for today has gospel music lost its essence in this year. You understand? And I think that's what I would say. I put it on question. One should address in this time. You know what I mean?
Now, I am going to make a statement now, and it's not meant to cause friction. I am doing it based on the Lord just dropped this in my spirit. When the Ark of the Covenant was to be returned to Israel, those that were in charge decided that there was an easier way of bringing it back. And so they put it on a cart. And in putting this on a cart, at the moment it seemed okay until there was a stone in the road and the cart tilted and the gentleman died. And when we go back to the scriptures, we realize that there was a way that God wanted it done, that he had instituted. And right through scriptures, there's proof to show that there is a way that seemeth right to man and the end of his destruction. And again, I said, I am not saying this to say that this pertaineth to our topic, but this is what the Lord dropped in my spirit. Restore is a program, as we continue to remind people, that is designed to deal with the issues that pertain to the kingdom, to teach, to expose, to enlighten all and sundry. We are not here to condemn anyone. We are just here to hinge whatever we discuss on the word as we examine the facts based on scriptural undergirding. Right, Sabi?
Yeah, well, awesome, man. And even as you shared that, thinking about this topic today, the scripture that the Lord has dropped into my spirit was from the book of Matthew, chapter 5 and verse 13. And I'll just leave it there. It's similar. It says, you are the salt of the earth, but if this salt has lost its savor, wherein shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under the foot of men. All right, so I'll leave that to simmer there in the meantime, because that's the portion that hit me earlier this morning as I was reminiscing on what we're going to do this afternoon and what we will discuss. So I realized, Mr. Adrian, you didn't tell us much about yourself, Minister. I just drop a little thing in the bucket, but some people might see you and wonder, who is this man? And I know there are people also, they don't like to talk too much about themselves, but take a minute and just give us a quick synopsis about who is Mr. Adrian R. Agar.
Yeah, well, I was born in Barbados so many years ago. Committed my life to the Lord around when I was about 21 years old. Got immediately involved in the Barbados Youth for Christ. Ministry that really helped to shape what I would become, the types of things that I would do. And interestingly enough, one of the things that was really critical to a change of my perspective on music was a leadership school that I attended in Tobago, a place called Arcadia Guest House in Tobago in 1981. And the theme of that leadership school was push for excellence. And that has sort of characterized my approach to ministry. Youth for Christ, because it was an interdenominational organization, also helped to shape my perspective of how we should operate as ministers of the gospel. In more recent years, we've gotten a lot of development of a lot of what I call independent churches, a lot of independent-minded Christians who, because their leaders and themselves are so focused on the fiefdoms that they're building, they are not conscious very much that they're part of a, pardon me?
No, go ahead. I think that was just some reverb on your side. Yeah.
Right. They're not conscious that they're part of a body of Christ that is wider than the place that they may be worshiping at the time, and so they don't always have time to interact with other people who may be worshiping at another assembly. One of the things that we have found is as we open ourselves, God has placed a lot of talents, abilities, gifts in the body, and in His wisdom, He places them in different places that we, if we are to really be effective in ministry, we must utilize them. I was involved very early in working at the Inland Revenue Department. And in 1981, that same year, 1981, when I went to the leadership school, a radio station started in Barbados called Voice of Barbados. It became very, very popular very quickly. And there I was as a young Christian listening to my gospel music. But when I turned on the radio, I wasn't hearing any gospel music. So I approached the station, myself and a colleague. I'd never been to a radio station before. I approached the station about getting gospel music on radio. As I was preparing to do so, a friend of mine who lives in New York now said to me, Adrian, why don't you shoot for a program? I didn't know what he was talking about, but I asked the question, would we be able to do a program? They allowed us to do a demo program. The program was called Priority, a half-hour program. And they subsequently got it on air in November of 1981. And that program stayed on Voice of Barbados for over 14 years. It was the first program of gospel music, of any sort of Christian programming that the station was doing. It opened the door for me to begin to freelance on a Sunday morning and to do the afternoon shift, just like maybe the one that you were doing now. And then a couple of years later for me to enter the company as a full-time employee, working on secular radio, but very much with a focus. My continuity shifts were on secular radio and playing all kinds of music, but my focus always was promoting the gospel. And the influence on the station got to a point where on a Saturday night, every Saturday night during the 80s, on Voice of Barbados, there would be a live gospel event coming from somewhere in Barbados, whether the Nazarene Tabernacle, the Queen's Park Steel Shed, George Street Auditorium. These live events were carried with sponsorship on the station. And that's part of the influence that we would have had in the early days. I also, around that time, started to work with a local group called Promise, which is thankfully up to this day still functioning. One of the most powerful groups in the region, still a very phenomenal group. I'm still very much impressed with what they do. Actually, they are going to be at one of our events this year for the Barbados Gospel Fest. They've been around a long time. But my work was involved in getting the gospel out through music, through radio. And by working with the group, I was able to develop them and I then produced other music for local artists. I remember we did something for a group from Grenada also. I can't remember the project that we did for a group in Grenada, but all my development, I was looking at one of the challenges in the early days, I want to know how do we get, as I travel around the region, I could find the music from North America in Trinidad and in Barbados and in Grenada and in Guyana. But I couldn't find the music from Barbados in Trinidad, or the music from Trinidad in Barbados, or the music from Jamaica. So I developed, in the early days, having gone to Jamaica to do mass communications, I came back and established Caribbean Christian Artists Network, which was, we were focused then on producing music for the region. So the first album that a guy like, say, Peter Regis out of Trinidad and Tobago would have done, we produced that. I think it was called Jade, if I'm not mistaken, from Grenada. We would have done a project for Jade.
Yeah. I think someone is calling your phone, Adrian.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just got.
Yeah.
So I would have done a project, help Jay to produce their first cassette project,
Yeah,
and so
Jade, Jade
we were.
Gospel Band. That's
Pardon?
Jade Gospel Band.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
this
we
like
would have worked with different people across the region in trying to get their music produced. It's really difficult to get us to work together in the region in the way that one would like to. But I think we were able to have impact. As time moved on, because of what I was involved in 1993, the Minister of Tourism here in Barbados, they were faced with a challenge of, do they bring casino gambling to Barbados, or what do they do in terms of diversifying the tourism product? He opted instead to go for what he would call wholesome tourism. And many of you would know that Minister of Tourism because he's a very popular West Indian cricketer. His name is Sir Rez Hall now. And he was the Minister of Tourism at the time. And I was invited to sit on that first committee that planned the first Barbados Gospel Fest. 2 years later, I was asked to chair a group from the Christian community. That's when the Barbados Tourism Authority felt that they didn't want to produce the festival anymore. Let a group from the community produce it. So I was asked to chair that. I didn't realize that by accepting, I was also accepting all of the losses, all of the challenges that would be involved around producing a festival. So we did that. And one of the things I felt immediately that I wanted to change, because in the first 2 years, I said to the people at the authority, when we got to the Garfield Sobers Gymnasium where the event was held, I said, really, what we seem to be doing here is producing a North American television show in Barbados. The grounding that I had in the region and my belief in the music of the region and the people of the region, I wanted to change that. So that's why later on we would interact with people like Cassandra and all the other artists from the region would have opportunity to be on the stage of Barbados Gospel Fest and to be seen, being promoted and so forth. We felt that the talents and the gifts that God gave, He didn't just deposit them in North America, but those talents were deposited right across the world. And that we have a right, we had a place, we had messages that we wanted to give to the world also. And some people didn't like the shift that we were making, but I believed in it. I believed that it was important to develop our people. And so over the years, we have done that. The festival is now 31 or 32 years old.
Wow.
We're really excited. The dates for this year, May 26th to June 2nd. And we continue to work with artists, to develop artists, because along with just doing the festival, we would do free workshops.
Okay.
Every year, whether that was in dance or flag worship or whatever the area was, something to help strengthen the and we felt that persons who were coming with those gifts from North America needed to leave some kind of deposit with us also, so that we could grow and develop. So that's basically what I've been involved in, what I've been doing. I'm excited about the gospel. I think that the message of the gospel is needed in our countries. I consider the festival as just in Barbados. We have a lot of festivals here. We have the Crop Over Festival. We have the Jazz Festival. There are different things going on. Oysters Festival. But I consider the Barbados Gospel Fest as the salt and light of the festival calendar. Through music, we can impact the nation. And that is what we're seeking to do. As we develop people, looking at our topic this evening, we see a lot of changes. But one thing that I've seen still consistently is a cadre of people who are still about promoting the gospel in a very genuine manner. And so I would be happy to join in your discussion this evening.
That was a lengthy minute, man, but nonetheless, I think you poured out your heart, and people need to know, because I mean, you mentioned about 1981. I wasn't on the earth that time. But it looks like you can tell, the youth say, "Oh, come a face still." Thank God for that. But as we lay the foundation and move forward, I want to invite Bishop Chester to put something on the table so we can think upon, as we talk about, has gospel music, lost its essence. in this era. So obviously we are making some form of comparison, Mr. Agard. He kind of like talk a little bit about it, but let's go into some serious matters. Bishop, I will solo you a little bit for that one because I expect it to be a little heavy.
Yeah, good evening to everyone, especially our distinguished guests. It's so wonderful to hear and to track the history of your testimony. It is just wonderful. And what we see, the essence, I think the essence is there. The influence is strong. The power of the gospel is strong. But we have seen the fathers. The fathers have been missing because it's a transitional time. When you hear our dear brother from Barbados speaking, back in the day, you had Joseph Niles and the technology. What we noticed is that the technology was able to rise with the music at the same time. Gospel music needed technology. So when the telephone came into Barbados, you heard Joseph Niles with that line, "Telephone to Glory." It's because the technology was there at the time. And the technology was able to rise with the music, not just the instruments, but also the recordings. Back in the day, if you didn't have one of these, you couldn't follow Minister Cassandra Powder. You needed to record everything on one of these. You know, this was the technology at the time. But the point that I want to make is that
hold up, just a second. Let me stop you a minute. You need to say what it is because not many persons know exactly what you just put up there. You understand?
Oh my
You need to
That's
say what
strange.
it is.
Looking strange.
There's a generation that does not know what that thing with this black coil that shine. They don't know what that is. What is that?
if you didn't,
Yeah, that's true.
this is a cassette. This is a 60-minute. You had 90 minutes. You had 60 minutes maximum. And if you didn't have one of these to record, because everything
Wow.
that was coming from the radio stations, you had to record it and capture it and play it back. So you had artists that were producing great music, but they were not being paid. You see, it was a marketplace that the music entered into. The moment the music entered into the marketplace, it lost its impact because now you had to deal with the competitor. And the greatest competitor at the time was just the devil. But you had people that were competing in the marketplace. And then the reason why I mentioned Joseph Niles is because he gave the Caribbean the fatherhood of gospel music. And he brought something that was just amazing. You see, in North America, you had the fathers like Andre Crouch. So Andre Crouch was a father of what was going to happen for the Winans. He was opening doors, but they didn't recognize what he was doing. So when they saw Andre Crouch with Elvis Presley, the church father said, no, we don't want, we are not going to support this man. Not knowing that Elvis Presley was tapping into the gospel because there was revival. Whenever there's revival, people begin to migrate. And so you had Jim Reeves, who was tapping into the church because they realized that the people wanted to be at the feet of Jesus. And so they were leaving secular, migrating into the gospel. But when the marketplace came, and you see, it rises with technology. Anytime technology is there, the gospel industry has to take on a sort of a take where you have to decide, am I going to do this for this reason, or am I going to do it for that reason? So the fathers, when Joseph Niles moved off the scene, you had the fathers, there was a vacuum. For instance, in Jamaica, you had Lester Lewis and Singing Rose. They opened the door for Papa San. They opened the door for Stitchie. And when you think of how the fathers operate, without the fathers, you would not have the influence and even the topic that we're hitting this evening. You would not even have the kind of move of the Spirit of God. And so what we're seeing now is a transition. There's a transition where the fathers are gone. And it's also seen in the book of Haggai, where the people who saw the glory of the former and the glory of the latter, some were crying out, and they didn't understand that the glory of the latter is going to be greater than the glory of the former. Not the house, but the glory that was coming. Because when you listen to some of the dance hall, when you listen to DJ Nicholas, some of the older folks are saying, what in the world is this boy saying? So you have that is a transitionary period. And what we're going to see in the next few moments or in the next few days is that the music is going to really speak volumes, because it is still the power of God unto salvation and part of the entertainment system.
All right.
Amen.
Okay, Minister.
So, Bishop, what we would like you to do, we want you to define gospel music first. We want you to go back, take us back, right? Because
Okay.
in everything we are doing today, we want to make a comparison, right?
Okay.
So take us back to the origin of this, as we call it, this gift, right?
Yeah.
If you want, you can take us far back as in the
Genesis
throne
4 is
room.
good. Yeah, Genesis 4 is good, because what we know is that the music is a reflection of Bara Elohim, the creator. So it's tripartite: God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. So you have rhythm, you have melody, you have harmony. But interestingly, Genesis chapter 4 gives us the law of first mention. There's a man called Jubal. So the moment Jubal is born, he becomes the father of those who will handle the harp and handle the organ. So at that time, they would use the entrails of the sheep or any animal that was available, and they will load that with the air, and they will release it at intervals. And the organ for today, every church that has an organ would appreciate what Jubal did, because the organ was not just limited for the church. You listen to the NBA games, you listen to the baseball, you'll hear the organs working in the last quarter of the game, just building the atmosphere. So what Jubal was doing before the major flood, before the flood of Noah, this man, his name Jubal means to flow. So he was flowing. He was flowing, and he was tensioning strings, shortening, lengthening, pulling out of the atmosphere the frequencies that we now appreciate, the chords and all of the kinds of consonants and dissonance that we now hear in the music. He was the father of that. And so when he became the father of that, it took some time for the worship, because Abraham became the worshiper in sacrifices, but it took David to bring all of the worship and the music with the voices together. But what Jubal did, he created a system by which we can capture sound. And when we heard our dear brother Adrian talking about the radio station, the capturing of the song is so powerful, because what he was able to do, David, when David came in his era in 1010 BC, David was able to take that same principle and use it for worship and use it to organize Asaph and Chenaniah and all the singers and dancers. So it goes way back into the scriptures, the power of the music, which reflects again the maker. And again, you know, the enemy, he was assigned to this dimension. He was assigned. So there's always a competitor. You always find a competitor, which is the enemy himself.
So in other words, what you're saying, sorry, I know you're going to say something. What you're saying, what you're telling us in essence is that this music that we're now, that is now so advanced, it actually came out of creation.
Yeah.
This is what you're telling us. It came out of creation. Every beat, every song, it came out of creation. Every instrument, it came out of the creative mind of God, but by extension, it came out of creation. So the ultimate aim of this music that came out of creation, what was the ultimate aim? What was the goal? Why was it created?
Okay. The goal was to entertain the presence of God. So just as Jubal was able to capture these sounds, they were always in the atmosphere, but you had to capture them. You had to record them. You had to store them. So they stored the air, the excess air in the organs, and release them at intervals that will create sound. But the main purpose was to entertain. It was an entertainment system for the presence of God in the earth realm. So when we get to Revelations, you see that the entertainment system is still there. They still use harps. They sing new songs, they worship, and it has always been, always will be.
Okay. Sabi?
All right. Well, we have other persons on the platform, so I don't want to be doing all the talking. Joshua, you're in, you're quiet. Candice, you're in, you're quiet. So you need to say something more than good afternoon. You're not calling you out. You're sitting quiet, you know?
Yeah, for me, I'm just absorbing it in terms of appreciating the origin of it, and it causes me to think a lot about stuff that we are eventually going to talk about. So I think the foundation has been set, and I think the question that comes to mind is really, what is the purpose of music if not to glorify God? Is there any alternative purpose? If we were in a debate, so to speak, Bishop, can we justify another purpose for music holistically at all?
Well, when it comes to what is needed in creation, before we get to that place of final redemption, the Apostle Paul, right into the book of Ephesians, he said, you have to make melody in your heart. And he puts the 4 categories. He says you have to sing psalms, you have to do hymns, then you have the category of spiritual songs, and then you have the ability to make melody. So what it does, it shows the creativity of God, where we are waiting to be finally redeemed. But while we are waiting, there's something that we can do to bring in not just happiness, but joy. And we can create the platform. For instance, in Psalm 150, that is actually a budget. What the psalmist David is handing the church a budget. If you don't have, for instance, to get to the place where you have high sounding cymbals and loud sounding cymbals and the organs and the harps, that's a budget of over $150,000. So without the creativity is not standing alone. It must come with a budget. It comes with a cost. So Jesus had to pay the price. And he also sang in Matthew 26. Jesus sang a hymn, and he was singing Psalm 118 before going to Calvary. So as he's singing Psalm 118, he's actually prophesying. So the whole entertainment system is about prophesying. So Jesus was saying, I shall not die, but live and declare. So while he was singing that, he was prophesying into what was about to happen to him. So the purpose, the real purpose, is to set the atmosphere, to set the platform, and to just bring into being everything that might be out of in chaos, out of order. Bring it into order. You see, because a threefold cord is not easily broken.
Very interesting. So this leads me to ask 2 things, Bishop. Very exciting. So is it, well, first let me make a statement. Is it fair to say that music exists as a form of worship?
Sorry.
Yeah, it is. It is. Because you see what has happened with the gospel, as early as Ezekiel saw the 4 gospels in facial representation. He saw the lion and the face of a cherub. That is Matthew's gospel. Then he saw the face of a man. He saw the face of an eagle. So he was looking at the 4 gospels, and when you read the book of Ezekiel, he said the spirit of the cherub was in the wheel. So the wheel, if the cherubs rose up, the wheel rose together. So the gospel, in producing the gospel, the wheel represents the system. If the gospel music was not the wheel in the middle, then you will have things revolving around the music that will just take the essence away from it. So you have to put the music in the middle. And wherever the gospel is preached, the ministry, for instance, D.L. Moody, he brought Sankey into his crusades. And that's where it all started, whereby they would sing before the power and the gift will come. They will sing. And as they're singing, and Sankey is singing the same thing that Brother Adrian spoke about. The radio station they were just talking. And in those days, it was Reverend Holmes. So Reverend Holmes was just on the air, but they said, but something is missing here. The music is missing. So you realize that when you bring them to the gospel and the gospel in song, you begin to see that there's transformation that takes place. You in the homes and in the communities and in the churches.
Mm-hmm. So my next question, and I think this would sort of guide at least where my thoughts go from here, is it possible for music to be neutral spiritually? And the reason I'm asking that is because from what you're saying, it would appear as if once you're involved in music anywhere, that you either have to be glorifying God or something else, whether it be yourself, whether it be a particular drug, whether it be a particular form of activity. So is it possible? What about the people that believe that you could listen to music, you could do music, you could play music and not go right or not go left? Is that even possible?
It is. You see, that's why the soul must be regenerated. The soul must be saved. That's why the whole basis of the gospel is to save the soul, because the soul plays the rhythm of the music attach itself to the soul. So if Savi would permit me, I'll play something to enhance what we're talking about. When you hear music like that, that is hitting the soul. You see, there's some waveforms that hit the soul. But if you play something like this, that goes straight into the spirit. That brings the spirit man into communion. So there's communion, and as you said, there are those who would not want to venture. They'll just keep it neutral based upon what you want out of this glory. This is the glory of God. According to Habakkuk, the whole earth is filled with his glory, but you have to capture it. You have to want it. You have to desire it. And then those who are playing it have to be able to pierce that shield that the enemy will put up so that the soul could be touched and the spirit man could express itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to ask something. One of them is directed to Mr. Agar, but this first question before that, define the essence from a musical standpoint of view, Bishop.
The essence of the thing, you could capture it from the Caribbean aspect, or you could look at what North America was doing, and now you see Africa rising. So when you see Africa rising, you see a different style of worship, where they're using lots of praying in the spirit, lots of tongues. Years ago, it wasn't like that. So it went through a transformation. So the essence, when you capture the essence, for instance, if you listen to some of the music from the Winans, the essence would resonate with your age group. You see. So just as Savi would say, I was not even on the planet at the time. You see, the essence goes with the age group. The essence goes with the era. So there's an era where music was just melodious, really beautiful. There was an era where you had the Winans, you had songs that could identify with what you were doing. You had Shirley Caesar. She was saying, I remember Mama in a special way. She used to pack our lunch. We in the Caribbean, we could identify with that. So the essence of what they were saying in even the Black Power movement in the Caribbean and the civil rights movement in America, we were able to identify with not just the skin color, but the culture.
So that this makes me think.
This is where this is just so you this is where it becomes very interesting, because based on what you are saying there, Bishop, right? Essence goes with era. That's because right. when something has lost its essence, and I mean, you probably have Joshua and Sabi probably want to spin on their head, because basically what you're saying is that as I said before, based on the era, it lost its appeal. That's the bottom line. It has lost its appeal.
Not really.
Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't agree with you.
No, not really.
The reason why I wouldn't agree with you, because okay, for example, Bishop mentioned some names. I'm like, who are those people? I don't even know who they are. How can I even identify the era in which I was born? There was something on radio that was being played, that was played in my house. You understand? That I've grown to understand. Right? Whatever it was that was being played from a child to the time when I reach a turn a man, most likely I'll gravitate to that. For me, when I gave my heart to the Lord, I could not listen to a song like Hallelujah. No, that was boring to me. Real talk. But at that time, Papa San just dropped, and I came from a community where, I understand that type of music. So I was able to gravitate to this very easy and understand everything this man was putting in there. And I know it was different and it was ministering to me. You can't tell me that it not gospel, it didn't really, have any essence, because I'm supposed to go now and find the cassette that Bishop have there. I mean, come on, where am I to find that? I'm not disrespecting, the old landmarks. I'm not going to move them because they are very important. But most people don't take the time to go back and look. They take what they get. So it calls for us to be inquisitive and decide to look deeper. So I hope this conversation here probably might cause some of that. But Joshua have a point, and Mr. Egal want to say something. So after Joshua, I see itching to talk. So.
Sabi, I was going to say that, for you it may have been Papa San, but Papa San has the same effect that Shirley Caesar may have had on you, on me. Right? So I grew up hearing people talking about Papa San, but really and truly for me it was Sherwin Gardner and JD. That's the reality of it, And so it really is an interesting part we're taking here, because when we talk about the essence, the interesting thing about it is there are some gospel artists that have tried to break away from the initial offerings that has placed them where they are today. And it's almost as if they have hit a ceiling, because the essence that is attached to the songs that make them popular, the songs that have gravitated to the masses, even though it wasn't produced well, wasn't mixed well, it maybe wasn't the strong lyrical content that they want to produce today, they cannot go on a stage and sing anything other than what they started singing eons ago, because that resonates with people. So I could also identify with the reality that era is very, very important. And at the same time, it makes me question what's the difference between the essence at the beginning of your Christian journey, specifically as a gospel artist, and as you grow. Is it that you grow and lose people? Is it that you grow and lose essence? Interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting talk. I want to hear Mr.
I want to say something.
All right, Candice, talk.
Stick Mr. Egan want to say something.
I want to say something.
Yeah, stick a pin,
Yeah, I think we have to accept that we're dealing with some concepts that may be subjective, based on where you're coming from. When I look at the topic that we are discussing, however, I get the sense that in each season, whether we go back to our early days, we come through, we talked about some of the early artists like the Andrew Crouches, and remember, still have to remember that when he emerged on the scene, there were still people who felt that what he was doing was not appropriate for gospel. And so the same when Kirk Franklin emerged. But I think that there is a kind of journey that some of the artists have begun to take, and some of them have taken, that when you examine what the offering is, what they're offering up for us, it does not quite meet a standard of being able to have any impact, any spiritual impact on anyone. And sometimes we may be a little bit afraid to confront this. We want to project that everything that that gospel artists do is led to the Spirit of God, and it has that impact to touch the lives of people. That is not true. That is not the reality. There's some things that people offer up on our stages and recorded music that just don't do anything for anybody, but maybe themselves. And I think that that's the reality. Not all of what we have been offered today, and I don't want to be here this evening just talking around the subject necessarily, and to assume that everything that I've heard that comes represented on the stages that we have is something that I find to be beneficial or to be it's like food. Not all food is nutritious.
Exactly.
So when we talk about essence, we're talking about what is that is nutritious, that helps to propel the gospel. There's some stuff I'm hearing that I gotta wonder what's that about? Because the reality is that we are in an environment where people are exposed to a lot of music. If you pay attention to what's going on in the realms, in the secular realm, and you then go to turn up at one of the concerts, and you can easily know what these artists are listening to. You know what they're dieting on based on what they give. They don't get the sense that they're on the word, that they are in the word, and that God, this message that they're bringing is from the Spirit of God. If you listen carefully, it's from one of the top secular artists that you've been listening to in your country.
No, wow. I understand. But so how do you decide, Mr. Igad, I want that particular artist on my stage? How over the years, what was your
God,
measuring
Sabi,
scale?
you're asking exactly what was going on. Well done.
Yeah. I just want to know, because hearing that come from you, I want to know, because in the beginning we mentioned that Gospel Fest Barbados has been a big thing over the years, and once you touch it, Joshua said that you're boss. So I want to know, what motivates you? What is it? Oh yeah. Tell me. I just see you understand where I'm coming from.
I guess what is the artist doing? They're artists that what exactly they're saying is, can I hear the gospel in this message that they're communicating? Or is it just another song? How is it structured? What is the content of the music? Not everybody that presents themselves on the stage under the banner of gospel is actually communicating the gospel. And I guess it's a matter of discerning. You don't always get it right. Sometimes you might find an artist may have a few songs that are saying the lyrics are good and it's well recorded and they may even be popular. And people are going for it. But then when you listen to what they're presenting on a holistic manner, some of the stuff that they're doing is not really consistent with the gospel. Some of the songs, I wonder if they have pastors who hear them and who listen to this lyric. Is it biblically sung? Right? And some of the things that, especially now that we've gone into the era of worship, some of the stuff I'm hearing, there somebody lay down and get 2 lines, drop in the spirit, and they made that a song.
Yeah.
So all I'm doing is hearing this repetition of a couple of lines, and I wonder, where's the depth of that? What's that doing? It's almost like you don't have a brain in your head, because all you're doing is just repeating these 2 lines, and I get crazy when I hear that kind of stuff, because there's no creativity about it. So
No, I agree with Mr. Igad, because I grew up in the era of, seeing Bishop play and being around him, being around my mom. Sabi, I kind of in the middle, because I know about Papa San and these people, and I would listen to cassettes from, and it would still even wake up with these songs. Listen to me. Sabi wouldn't know, but I think Bishop and Mr. Igad and Mommy will know where is I'll be standing in the gap for you. Just remember someone somewhere is praying for you. Like, those songs are the songs where I wake up on my spirit in the morning, like songs I haven't heard from since cassette gone. And I have been in that era where I think I missed part of the gospel, where with Sherwin and Denton, Guitar Dan, and these people would be singing, and afterwards, even with them, it kind of phased out, and you will go to a concert, and you would, hey, the song, da, 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 and then you leave with nothing. So I stopped going Christian or gospel concert. Yes, my family could tell you. I don't even know who on the playlist. Like, I really don't know. Because one, as a young person,
No, I'm really disappointed to hear that.
no, I don't go. I literally do not go. The last one I went to, Mr. Agard, is yours in Barbados when Purpose sang. I am telling you.
Wow.
And even before that, I haven't been to any. So like even not calling names, but even like Positive and them, I would hear the clips on the radio or hear the clips with somebody car, but I personally don't go to gospel shows. For me, it's now a marketing thing of making money. Let me bring the most popular person. You jump your wave and there's nothing to go with. You don't even shed a tear to say Holy Spirit move. So why is the sense am I doing it? It's just like I could pay a normal concert and go outside in a stadium, enjoy myself, and come home and the same vibes I would be getting. So for me, and when you hear many youths or people my age, they don't go to these shows anymore because that's what you get. And then even in a small community, as I say, small as Trinidad and Tobago, you see these gospel artists, and when you see them outside, hey, brother, you ain't living the life you're singing about. So why am I supporting you?
Yeah, so I want to jump in here because Candice, in the wording that you're using, I'm getting the sense that it is more about not to say you in this example, but the opinion you have is centered around someone that is more concerned about the individual that's on the stage rather than being wrapped up yourself in what you need or what you want out of it. So I could identify what you're saying because I'm in it 24/7, 365. But I have come to a point, for instance, as an audio engineer, if I go to a church service and I realize the system isn't sounding good, I have to literally turn off my audio engineering critiquing skills and I look for something more. Or I tap in and say, God, whatever happening here, please assist me in pulling what you want me to pull from it. And so my friends, let's say I go with a group of friends to a church and say, Joshua, how you find that mix song? And I say, boy, up to now, I ain't hear that mix, because I hear the message. So I understand that there may be opposing school of thoughts, and I am not entirely sure where the balance is, because you have a group of persons that are saying that, listen, I may not be getting substance from it, but then you have a school of people that say, you're saying you're not getting substance because you're not even going there to tap in. Or maybe your intention.
No, but you don't understand the era. We are talking about timelines here too. So in our era where I would have been introduced to gospel music, I would have been introduced to gospel music where it was biblical. When they sang it, you could have gone back in the Bible and you could have referenced it. You could have seen it. Exactly, all around. You could have seen it happen in a church. Now you would have come into an era where it's feel-good music mixed with gospel. I am not saying what you're looking for, because listen to me, I could critique a song whether saved or unsaved, but it's not that. But even as and you raise a good point. Personally, what you looking for? Am I looking for a good feel vibe, or am I looking to be ministered onto? Am I going to a gospel concert to jump and wave my rag or be ministered onto? Am I going to critique their song system? Then I'll go for one thing, is what you're going for. But even that, we have, again, we go back to same culture. We have a standard which we need to go by, and we need to have scriptural undergirding for a lot of things. I am a music fanatic, but then some way you have to draw the line as a Christian, because I need to turn on the radio and differentiate. I wouldn't call gospel artists, but A from B. There are some artists that they are being played on secular music side by side, gospel artists, and you really can't discern that person is a gospel artist.
Just let me come in here. I think we need to be, although I've made the point I made earlier about some of the music that we are hearing, and yes, some of it may not be uplifting, may not be efficacious. It's just not any real substance. But I want to be very careful to say that there is a tremendous lot of very good music that is still being produced. And one of the dangers is if you stay away from it, you really are not exposed to, you can't be exposed to all that's happening. And like, where am I? You asked, the question was asked, how do I decide on the artist you're going to use? Well, you've got to be able to discern, listen for what it is that is uplifting. And the other thing we have to be careful as Caribbean people, because I mean, we haven't ventured there yet. We have this, you know, it happens a lot here in Barbados. You'll find that a lot of Christian people in Barbados love country and western music. Now, you listen to a country and western song that some Christian people play, and when you listen to the words of that song, it's some man, you know, being very not decent where his wife is concerned. He's maybe being involved in some kind of bad relationship. But the Christian people are listening to it because to them, the song sounds like maybe some gospel thing to them. You know, they're not listening to what the words are saying. And we have to be careful as Caribbean people, because one of the issues that we had to deal with in the earlier days was a rejection of the music that was Caribbean music. People were not listening to what was the content. So the person you mentioned earlier, Joseph Niles, there were some churches here that did not want to entertain him. And the point the young lady made about music being played side by side, of course I want to hear the gospel music on the secular station being played side by side, because how else will the unsaved person get to hear that message?
But
Because
if you cannot
what
differentiate, that's what I'm talking about. If you cannot differentiate, I am all for the gospel going everywhere, crease and crevice. But what I'm saying, the essence of it all, I'm not criticizing exactly music, but I'm saying if you cannot differentiate from the secular, from the gospel music, that's what I'm talking
So I
about.
I like to
Right,
share personal
right.
experience. Well, when Mr. Egad is finished.
you might not be able to, right, you might not be able to differentiate it from in terms of the song, the rhythm or whatever. But if you get down to actually listening to what it's saying, you may be able to, you ought to be able to differentiate it. And this is something that we've had to deal with when I worked a lot of years with Promise, where we've gone up to Trinidad and got influenced by people, my good friend, now deceased, Leland Henry, who had a steel band and initiated us into a lot of things with calypso and stuff. The band comes back here to Barbados and starts to do that. And people are some people not getting it. But it is the music of the Caribbean. And what it does, like for instance, one year I'm on radio. Every year at Crop Over, my radio station switches up the format. So we're not playing gospel music anymore. We're playing the music that comes out at Crop Over. What did I do? I went into the studio and recorded an album called Crop Over Praises Volume 1. It was recorded in calypso, because I wanted to make sure that during that period, when they take the gospel off to play all the secular songs, that they had a song projecting the gospel in calypso. I went to the local Christian bookstore, and the guy looked at it, Crop Over Praises? You can't bring that in here. You see, so it's a mindset.
Yeah,
But my action, if you listen to that album today, it is still a quality album. And the thing about it is, my intention was that when my station pulled all the other gospel music that was not calypso off of the station, we still had something that was speaking to the gospel in the idiom that was being played at the time. So it's all about what's your purpose? What is it you're doing? What are you trying to achieve with the music? And
So
is it still carrying that gospel message? Huh?
So just to share my personal experience, and this is not to encourage anyone to go and do this, right? So Grenada Gospel Fest, no, not Gospel Fest, Grenada Youth Fest, right? That was one of the first experiences that I had that essentially showed me that young people could really praise God. I've never seen a group of young people praise God like that, right? So I went, and you all know Jaronis Caribbean Christian. I had not heard Jaronis Caribbean Christian, right? So I'm in the hall, and there's about maybe about 300 people by the school. I can't remember the school going up the hill there. And as I said, first time for me in Grenada, and I'm like, gosh, I can't believe that young people can raise up their hand and praise God. Now, I was like that,
Oh, yeah.
right? And so the Caribbean Christian instrumental came on. Now I'm thinking it's the secular song. So I'm like, what madness going on here? These people crazy. And then the first time I heard Jaron sing, I was like, but who's this? This person singing about God? But nah, something wrong. So I had to go on YouTube at the time and find the song and listen to it. Now, in the moment, I realized, and that was revealing to me, that was my revelation, to see so many young people jump and praise God. I was like, wow, this is absolutely crazy. Now, I said, this isn't for everybody, and maybe Jaron has a special type of conviction and purpose.
Now,
that
let
is
me tell you, just let me come in here. Let me tell you, the person you just mentioned, I guarantee you listen to this guy ministering on stage, and you have to be convinced that he has an experience with God. We brought him here for an event on Arabara Day on the beach. Amazing presence. With the same song, Caribbean Christian. And you see, it is not just about the rhythm. What is it the person is bringing to the stage? And when you listen to Jaron, you get a sense that this guy has been with the Lord. Yeah? And what he's communicating to young people is powerful. And you talk about people dancing. Well, when we go up to Farley Hill National Park, I expect the young people to dance. I expect them to celebrate. And we need to be, and that's something, I don't want to share the experience that we've had. There's a guy in Grenada now. His name is Happy Akasi. Pastor Happy Akasi. The first year that he appeared at Gospel Fest, one awesome day at Farley Hill National Park, by the time I got back home, because part of it was carried live on television, by the time I got back home, people were bawling down the place about, what are you doing? Because Happy is from Africa, and he started to dance and do some fire eating and all sorts of things. People almost lost their minds. Some Christian people almost lost their minds. The same young man who my wife assisted in getting to the Caribbean, having encountered him on a missionary trip that she went to Malawi. This same man is now developing churches in Grenada, Carriacou,
yeah,
Quebec, Martinique.
He actually has about 2 minutes from my house.
When people saw him dancing on the stage at Farley Hill, he's an African, and he's dancing out of his experience, and people are losing their mind, want to know what we're doing at Gospel Fest with this kind of behavior.
Wow. And you know, Sabi, I guess this brings me to, I could confidently say this from this conversation thus far. It shows me that everyone that has a special hand upon their life for a specific era is labeled as a disruptor. And they are going to be a group of persons that completely do not identify. They think that it is not right. And they think that the level of disruption that is being displayed should not be displayed. That is very interesting to me.
But I think I've heard I think it was Minister was trying to explain something to me one time about the inner courts and the outer courts, and she normally says these are the outer courts people. They keep you on the outside there. They would I mean, she know what I'm talking about. And they just work your emotions, and that's all they do. But you know, you need to get inside there. And I was thinking about it in the form of a cast, Mr. Egad, you do concerts. So I was thinking, like, you know what? This if we're looking at this pattern of worship and we want to go back there and we want to use music to get to that place, I was thinking, okay, when you set a cast up for a concert or whatever event, well, if there is outer court artists, then good, you need them.
Yeah.
But you also need those that go a little closer, and you need to end inside there, and it needs to lead people to God and not just we come. That's what Candace was saying there. You have persons that their sole intention is to behave bad, so to speak, mash up the place, as the young people say. What people was turned up, as they say, that concert was lit. Yeah, but what was really lit about it? Was it lit with the Holy Spirit that when you left, you say, wow, ministry, my life. Listen, bro. Again, I was a young Christian when Papa San came to Grenada, and I can still remember this date this day to today. And when the man ministered, in the end, you understand, he had an altar call, he had a way how he did what he did, and I cannot say that he did not do ministry, and he never was what we would term now, a singer. Bishop played some chords earlier on. You know, when you hear these chords play, you sit there and say, wow, yeah, Jesus, yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? But even then, I think it's not so much about the presentation, but it's more about the presence of God and how you are able to, you know, if God has done something for you, how you're able to pass that on to people to get that same experience. So it's not just the music, but then again, remember, that's when the individual is present. But what about when you're not present? When your music is being played, is it doing the same thing? It doesn't have that same essence. People have to wonder, who is that individual? You understand? Who is that? Like that song. Mr. Ega talk about I think we call it vain repetition.
Two-liners.
And there are a lot. Yeah, you understand? And you have some things, and when you listen to it, it has all the chords that Bishop played. But what is the message? You understand? It's just hallelujah. No, nobody say praising God and saying hallelujah, you know, emphasizing it is bad. But there are some when you listen to it. But then again, it comes down to personal choices, how you connect with what you hear, because this thing is so vast and wide. And next week, I know you want to jump into the genre, you know, and look into that a little more deep, but let me leave it there for now.
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting to have these discussions. This is not new. This has been going on for a while, for years. And one of the things that I am happy about is that the Lord has blessed me with long life. I remember when we did back in the 1980s, we did the Me Gob Song Contest in Barbados. And a lady who now sings secular music, her name is Tamara Marshall, she won the Me Gob Song Contest doing a song called Supernatural Voyage and another song, Promise, backed her at the contest. And then the National Cultural Foundation invited the group to sing at a secular event called Kahablapa. All of a sudden, the people in her church were not too in favor of that. So Promise is going to Kahablapa, and her church is telling her, no, you can't go to this event. And she didn't go. Today, the members of Promise, two of the guys that were members of Promise, my good friend, Mr. James Morgan, and Austral Leswick, they manage a company called Quality Sound here. Both of them are still committed Christians in Barbados. The lady who did not go to Kahablapa eventually ended up singing secular music and is doing so to this day. What am I saying? We mistake sometimes. We think you can take this gospel message where you need to take it, and it's ideally suited. It's ideally suited in secular environments because it's the gospel. It's the light that's needed in the darkness. And what we have happening very often is that we want to keep it's like taking tea to China or coal to Newcastle. We want to sing to the choir. In actual fact, we need to sing to the unsaved. We need to be ministering the gospel, and we need to put it at times in a context and in rhythms and in ways that secular people sit up and start to listen to it. What they're listening, the thing that might catch them initially might be the rhythm. But if you have written it well, if you present it well, they will hear the gospel. And we got to believe God that our artists are seeking to do that. And we're praying. We got to continue to pray for them, that their hearts will always be inclined to God, hearing from the Spirit of God, and communicating through their music that message. What I'm concerned about is when the artist begins to think that he is a secular artist, starts to do music that has no substance in it, and still want to be termed as a gospel artist or a Christian artist.
That's it.
If you make me try, that's my problem. That's my only difficulty I have with it. Yeah.
Bishop, I know you have something in your mind. It's quiet.
No, I'm just listening.
Let me take some comments. Let me just take some comments.
I'm just listening to wisdom.
Words of wisdom. So I'll take some comments, right? So we go back there and let me see if I can go back up a bit because I don't want the viewers and listeners to feel like we leave them out. All right. All right. So my brother here says the language or young people speak today, only certain types of music that might reach them. So he's saying based on the language that they speak, he feels that only certain type of music will reach them. I'll leave you guys to chew on that a little. If you want to take a second, maybe 30 seconds and just speak to it. If you feel me should pass, just say pass.
No, I believe that, and I agree with that 100% because I have a 16-year-old and he don't listen to the normal. For me, I had to go on YouTube and pull up when I realized he was listening to secular rap music. I had to go and pull up. It have a lot of good rappers from London or whatever it is, and the lyrics is song biblical knowledge, like rap music that you would listen on the radio and not know when you hear the rhythm, but when you listen to the words, and they actually give you scriptures in the rap verses. I had to introduce him to that, and he's like, "Oh, gospel music ain't boring," and that's what he listened to. He has a mixture, but that's what he listens to or he gravitates to.
Awesome.
And also to support that, I would want to say that Christians who consider themselves as seasoned and experienced when it comes to the type of music they listen to cannot always discount music that doesn't move them. Because at some point, just as Candice is saying, there is music out there that I guess would appeal to someone that is much younger. It may not appeal to you, but then it doesn't mean that the music is not effective in its own right. So we have to have a level of appreciation across the board for the bigger picture, which is the glorification of God, the building of the kingdom. So I always try to, especially when in these discussions, try to have that level of appreciation of saying, okay, if something doesn't speak to me, if it doesn't move me, maybe it is potent enough to move someone else. Yeah. Interesting.
I am, for one, I love what Joshua just did, because I made a note of something here and I said, like, motive. What's your motive? When you write a song, what's your motive? You know, I mean, there's one if you do a song and say, yeah, it's a testimony. So now you are talking about what God has done for you. That's a whole difference. Maybe that's just your personal way of expressing. You didn't write your testimony for anybody else. That's for you. You just had to record it. And to different people, because of how God moves, they identify with it in a whole different way than you, the person that God placed these words into to put out there. And trust me, all our testimonies are different. Can you see that mine is invalid because it's different to yours? You know what I mean? So we have to realize what's really going on. Mr. Agard, you're on point. That was my brother said here. The Jews have their music. The Indian have their music. Latino have their music. What Caribbean people have? You know, very interesting.
My perspective, I talked to you about our leadership school in Tobago for Youth for Christ, 1981. That changed my perspective on Caribbean music. Up until that time, I didn't have an appreciation of it, of who we were, you know. And unless we can appreciate ourselves, and you know, I have had some very interesting experience. I remember a time there was a group visiting Barbados on the Logos, the ship. You know, the people from different nations on the Logos, and they came to the church I was worshiping at the time, the Abundant Life Assembly. And these people from the ship were displaying dances from their culture in our church. And I said to myself, I wonder if somebody from Barbados displayed a dance from Barbados, the way that people dance. I wonder how the church would receive it. But you know, we are willing to accept these people with the Polynesian dance and this kind of dance and stuff. We have a real serious problem with what our people dance, how our people dance. We have a problem. So we have some things we need to fix here in our minds, because we are willing to accept what other people do, but we want to cry down what our people, the creative, what God has given us and there's a rhythm in the Caribbean. I call it, when I speak to people about Caribbean music, I call it happy music. And there's a place for happiness in life. There's a time when you want to be sedate and you want to reflect and stuff, but there's another time you better find a time when you want to party, you want to enjoy it. You know, there's a time for celebration. And so there is a period for everything. And if our music is celebratory music, let's embrace it. And let's be able to be in a position to appreciate what other people are doing and appreciate our own people who have difficulty with accepting it. We need to work with each other. And so that's why in this festival, we start with an event called Hymn Speak. All of those old hymns, how great thou art. And all of those are sung lustily. But you know, a lot of people who attend the St. Mary's Church for that event will not head down to Farley Hill National Park for one awesome day. Because what is down there is not their cup of tea. You know? But which one do we throw away? Do we throw away the one at the St. Mary's Church, or do we throw away the one at the Farley Hill National Park where the young people are coming to enjoy themselves and experience all the rhythms and the dance and all that kind of stuff? Which one do we throw away?
I think
embrace them both.
I think the whole idea has been like amazingly, like, you know, one person give their life to church and they give their life to God, and now they in church and thing. And when they come into the church, remember that whatever church they go to, the church have a culture of its own.
Mhm.
There are some things that are accepted there, and that is the gospel to them. You understand? Whether it's an organization, whether it's when I say organization, like, you know, they have different what do you say that sister and brother churches, so to speak, in different parts of the island. So these people they form a culture within themselves. For example, there are churches in Grenada today that say, hey, what's going on? Bishop talk about the organ, and he talk about the parts of the drums. There are churches in Grenada today that they don't want, listen, you talking about Caribbean? No, we don't want that. No, that don't belong in the worship that Almighty God received. Right? Now, every person, no matter where you came from, no. When you come and you say you give your heart to the Lord and you go a part of that body, automatically you have to adopt that culture. But doesn't that feel like if it is some kind of imprisonment in a sense? If you check what I'm saying, right? So you have to go now and say, where I'm going right now, all that I knew, that's part of me being a new individual now. So I have to stop listening to drums in music because that is not of God. I don't want to hear bass because that thing there, no, we only clap hands in here. You understand? In fact, the way we praise the Lord is that we speak to Him in psalms and hymns, as the scripture bishop spoke about earlier on. You understand? Singing, making melodies in our hearts. We look at that portion of scripture alone and we even see nothing else about no drums and no bass, no keyboard, no nothing. So these are the things. We don't care if you play it slow or fast. We don't want it. That's not what we believe. I mean, come on. Doesn't this song kind of weird in a sense? I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. All the years you weren't there. If you're born and grow and that's all you know, then even then again, it's another story. But you see, God is not like us humans. And I don't think He has a problem with the person who say to themselves that that's the way I want to praise God. I don't think God have a problem with that, right, Bishop? If that's what, you feel the way to connect with Him, then that's good. But when it becomes an issue, is when you see now, is when it becomes the issue and when the back and forth comes is when the person says to you, what you're listening to is not like what I gravitate to and know. So there's a big issue there because I don't know, that way you listen is secular music. That is not of God.
No, you are being decent. They will tell you it's of the devil.
Well,
they will tell you. I mean, there are people who have preached in the pulpit that this music is of the devil, and they're convinced of that. So that is the challenge that you face. And then you live long enough. You live long enough. If you stay long enough around, you will see. I remember when Nicole Balosing first came to Barbados with the song "Jump for Jesus." You don't remember that song?
Yeah.
Are you too young?
I remember.
You don't know this.
I don't know
Yeah,
that.
jump-
You're not too young.
I don't know them thing, there, brother.
You get, huh?
I said, I
You
don't know
get
them.
jump
I
for
don't know them thing.
I can't remember it.
I took
But
her
I
to a
think,
church, and
but I think,
the pastor said, "No, we can't have her here. She could, we can't have her here." But you know, I lived long enough to see that same kind of music being played in that same church,
Yeah.
and I just saw and smiled. If you live long enough, some people will come around to understand it. There's no harm in it, really. It is our rhythms. It is, you know, what's it saying? What was
yeah,
Nicole saying in that song? And she was one of the early breakout artists out of Trinidad and Tobago. That year I'm talking about was about 1994. Way back.
yeah. So, but again, I still think motives have a lot to do with what people put out. Someone said, "What they don't have, they can't give." I feel like if a person don't have a gift and they haven't been called, not just a gift, but they haven't been called by God to do certain things, they will only go so far. And I say that, and I can remember a particular artist in Trinidad. I listened to him talking after, and Joshua knew what I'm talking about. And he said, "Yeah, we're going on. I gone back on this thing because know money in that and put in a lot, and the people are hypocrite. I say what
Hypocrites.
hypocrite." And long story short, the man was doing music that I believe people were appreciating. And then, I mean, he went through his hardship. But I've also heard of artists that said, "Listen, I had to work hard. I stayed. I knew God called me." And just last night I was listening to a program with Mavia Providence, DJ Nicholas, Jason Mighty, and two other guys from Jamaica, and they were saying that here's what: when we started the music thing, we had to invest our own monies into it, even when it wasn't making sense. We were still there. When we weren't getting paid for it, we were still doing it because we know, we have a message for the youths and God has called us, and that kept us going. You understand? And even if we're not getting money for it, we still would do it. And then here the conversation go a different place, so you can go another full program down from this one. But I feel like, what's your motive? What's your purpose? Did
Yeah.
God where's your
Um,
heart? You know?
Sabi, you're basically going into some interesting depths there, and you're segueing into a very interesting realm where it now really speaks to, I want to say, two different minds: doing gospel music because you need to do it to survive,
Right.
and doing gospel music because you're called and you have an actual purpose when it comes to reaching the nations. And I think we've had these discussions for so many times, and we try to marry the two, and we try to coexist within the two and strike some sort of balance without compromise, at least to a great extent. So my question would be, how do you strike that balance? Is there even a balance to strike? Do you have to pick a side? Should I be in this to ensure that I reach people, that I edify souls? Or is there anything wrong with me wanting to seek a career or financial prosperity through it? And I'll leave that for either you or Bishop or Mr. Egad.
There's a whole
I
topic.
like to say something. I like
Yeah.
to say something, please.
Mhm.
I hear everything that was said for a while, but and I understand the feel good music. But my view is the gift is the gift, and the gift comes from the giver of gifts. And everything that we possess is designed to bring glory to God. We don't live, we don't die to ourselves. And I understand in terms of the type of music, we all are products of our environment, right? And if it's calypso, it's whatever is in the atmosphere, that is what people will gravitate towards. After a while, once it's in the atmosphere, it becomes normal, right? The young people with the type of music, what they're listening to, it's in the atmosphere, it will become normal. So whatever is written, it will be skewed towards that particular type of music. But at the end of the day, the issue is that the bigger issue is the young people, if that is what you want to label it as, or anybody else. When we write, when we produce, I believe that every individual, especially pertaining to kingdom business, you must have a mentor. You must have a pastor. You must have somebody. You write a song, you must, like, I guess there are people who would say, Mr. Agar, I wrote this song. Pastor Allen, Bishop Allen, I wrote this song. What you think about it? And I am talking from experience. Sometime last year, myself and another gentleman, we write together. And when the song was completed, he put in some stuff. And I wasn't comfortable with it, so I sent it for my pastor. I said, something is not, and he said, listen, this particular line, and it had to be changed, right? It had to be changed. And I told it, if the fella said, no, Cassandra, this is nice, and it rhyme, and I said, no. I said, at the end of the day, I am going to have to stand on a stage and sing that song, and I am not going to be branded as heretic. I must sing line upon line, precept upon precept. So at the end of the day, we need, what is missing in the gospel arena? Mentors. Mentors are missing in the gospel arena. Mentors in all areas, whether be in our writing, whether in producing, because there are songs and there are beats. And my daughter spoke earlier on in speaking. I had an experience on the Best Village stage. Maybe Adrian, you know this Best Village, but the others, I sex savvy, would not know what is Best Village. And I saw when they beat the drum in a particular way, 5 women became demon possessed. They started to scream, right? People are now, gospel artists are now going back to Africa, and they are now accessing certain beats that are ascribed to certain things. Not everything is safe. There are things that are sacrificed or covenanted to entities that are not the Holy Spirit. And you go and you take this and you factor this into a song. And when you factor it into a song, the impact, if you turn the music off, the impact is the same, because it's just like a carnival show. The difference would be the way, of course. The women will be dressed differently. So if you turn off the music in a gospel show, it's basically the same reaction is one of rejoicing, jubilance, right? But when you come and you factor in these beats without having a second opinion, without having a discerning eye or discerning ear, and you come and present it on a platter, the lives that are disrupted by that music. But to you, when the music is played in the outer atmosphere, there is jubilance, there's action, there's rage, there's cry. But the music is dangerous. It's intoxicating, but it's dangerous because those rhythms, they do not belong. They were sacrificed unto certain deities, and they mess with who we are. So yes, I listened to everything you guys said. The music, the feel-good music, the this, the that. But at the end of the day, the gift was given to us for us to glorify God. Yes, enjoy and embrace and celebrate your gift. But at the end of the day too, you must have a mentor. There must be somebody that is betting that music, that is able to tell you this isn't right. And other than that, our young people need to be taught. Their music out there that is dangerous, they need to be taught. I rest my case.
So just to jump in here. So Very passionate mom, Minister Powder. And I'm going to support what you say by asking, do we really have a culture of mentorship? Do we
Yeah.
really have a culture of older ones teaching younger ones? Do we have a
No.
culture of correction? Do we have
No.
a
Yes and
culture?
no.
But because you
Yes
see,
and
where
no.
I stand or sit in for now, the reality is that you have a sort of dynamic that is in black and white. You have persons maintaining relevance without time to mentor, because I am so wrapped up, so to speak, in ensuring that I remain relevant, that I am unable to really be part of the mentorship for everyone else that is also flooding to come in to sing the gospel. And then you have a group of persons that they say that they want to mentor, but the reality is they are not really contributing positively to any type of mentorship. But they would stand at the top of the hill and say, you all need this, you all need A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But they have never traversed down the hill to lend a hand or assist in any form. So, how do we bridge that gap where you have the issue of needing mentorship, and then you have persons who can provide that aren't providing, or maybe they can't? I'm not too sure. And that for me has been my concern. At what point do we see any type of movement or solutions being implemented? Because we all know what the issues are. And clearly, from the conversation we're having, we have the solutions. So, what do we do? How do we get there? The system needs to be developed. We need to have some sort of conference. We need to have, because at the end of the day, we talk about exactly what they're talking about, mom. But the reality is, if a group of persons were to come together, and I'll rest on this point, if a group of persons were to come together and say they are going to be discerning for the type of music that goes on the airways, if they say they're going to be the gatekeepers, then they say there's a mafia. so
That's where
how
you go
do,
with it.
how do you develop a system where you
That's
can
it.
encourage mentorship, bring persons who want to mentor, create quality assurance, ensure that we don't have, so to speak, nonsense going out on the air? You understand what I'm saying? It's an interesting one.
I heard people say that
Mentorship
well,
is
I heard one person say that you know what? It's
Men-
not that we don't want to mentor, is that the young people don't want to be mentored. Because they don't like what we would tell them. Oh, they're not in style, like if Minister Cassandra would listen, she might say that beat, not that beat. Dancehall, no. Oh, so when you talk about the mentorship, you can't. It's like one cap don't fit everybody. One size don't fit all. It just can't happen. You understand what I'm saying? Because I think to narrow it down, if you find the person that does what you are interested in, like in terms of a particular genre of music, and you can find truth in the lyrics and in the thing. But I mean, Joshua really go in a place there that have a question mark lingering over my head. I'll come back to that because I think I want to talk about this a little bit. But I'm saying, if I know Bishop is good in doing like the slow type of worship music, then he's albums that he probably put out over the years, you can tell the type of person he is and where he's at with the music that he produced. So I wouldn't want to go to him so much for a soca song, for example, because it just might not make no sense that me going to him, right? Same way. But here's the thing though, Joshua question had me thinking deeper than just the lyrics, right? What you said. And Gideon asked a question too. And I think I want to jump in and say those chords carry a spirit, or people carry spirit, or people carry spirits. Well, this one had me thinking, there's a producer on the line. My brother Judah, I see him there, right? Judah is a big producer. The thing is, for me, what I'm thinking is like, okay, when you buy a pack, Joshua, you know what a pack is, right? You
Yeah.
know, right? So you buy a pack, and you get all these different songs and so forth inside that pack when you purchase that pack. But I never stopped to ask myself, well, how was that pack produced? And I think that's where you guys was going. Someone mentioned that there are some of them who go, under the sea or wherever to get songs. They go far and wide to get songs. You understand? And then this is now come and is placed inside a whole entire production. Once you might say something good, what's the origin of it? Like what inspired that? I mean, I could tell if a truck, two trucks crash, or if you have an explosion, some fire, wood or something burning, you could hear the thing. You could take all these pieces or elements and you could put them and make a song out of them. You know what I mean? It's a lot of bits and pieces. But then again, you have to ask yourself that question. And when you go so deep, then you might say to yourself, well, I don't want to listen to music because I don't even know I don't even know. Or maybe you should say to yourself, maybe I should pray and sanctify the thing just like when I eat my food. Why could I don't know. I mean, you guys tell me. Bishop, you
Sabi,
tell me, that was your thought. I just you're thinking.
I wanted to touch on that and just share a quick experience with Mr. Aga that I had. There was a particular artist. He was in Tobago here by us, and there was a particular artist. I'm not even sure if he remembers. I brought him up to the studio and said, "Mr. Aga, take a listen to this music. Can this guy, have an opportunity to be on the stage in Barbados?" And I'm telling you, Mr. Agard broke my heart. Mr. Agard watched me and tell me the man song ain't finished. With the man singing only, he was like, Josh, this is not finished. And the guy, he wrote his song, produced his song, he's in the band room practicing his song, and Mr. Agard telling me the song not finished. And I mean, I wanted to touch on that because at the time he saw something that I didn't see, and years later, going into my own, I was able to go back to that same song and listen to it and finally understand, okay, the song finished. Truly is not finished.
My brother Soul Construction.
Well, unfortunately, that's the problem with a lot of songs that come out. They're not, somebody got a couple of lines and they feel that they have a song and they record it and they bring it to Hope Radio. They bring it to the station and somehow, because they're no gatekeepers or the gatekeepers not really paying attention, they put it on air. People hear it. And then all of a sudden, this guy is a big star and he's singing nonsense. And the challenge when we talk about mentors, sometimes with some of the music that I hear and lyrics, I really wonder if some of the singers, if they actually have pastors, leaders, who actually monitor or listen to what they're doing, critique their music, critique their lyrics, and because that content need to be biblically sound. And very often some of the lyrics that you hear, they're not biblically sound. So what Cassandra is saying based on what her mentor would have looked at and say, hey, you shouldn't be singing this, or I understand that. That's what's needed. But if you don't have that, at a minimum, if you don't have that, you end up with a lot of things in songs that when you look at them, and these are some that are even produced internationally, they're not scripturally sung, but people end up singing them.
I like how you rest your keys there. Yeah, I like
mentorship is a personal thing, yeah? Mentorship is a personal thing. Right?
Why you
it's
say
a
so?
personal thing.
Why you say
it's
so,
a relationship of trust. No,
yeah.
You just don't take a song or take yourself and go open yourself up. It has to be a relationship you have with somebody, a relationship that you build and that you trust and you're comfortable with that person. In other words, that person has been tested and tried, and you know that when you sit with that person, they have your best interests at heart. You just don't get up and say, hey, pastor down the road, or so and so, I have this song, check it out. No, it don't work that way. It's one that and then there are people out there, but then also in mentorship, mentorship is also a partnership. You understand? It's a partnership between two people. It's not I talk down at you, because a good example, I'm really concerned about the music, the type of music, You understand? The type of music is not a concern to me. So I'm not one of those that would criticize the type of music. What I listen for is the lyrical content. That is what I listen for to figure out if it makes sense. If you're singing a song about Jesus, right? If the I and the I and the I, it don't make any sense. You got to go back to the drawing board. You understand? Mentorship is about humility. It's about patience. You understand? So you can't say what they call as we call it, Brother Joshua Powder. You cannot say that, no. There are people out there that you can go to. Any artist can go to, young or old. It might be somebody that even you could probably talk to online. You know them, but they're not close to you. What you think about this? Bishop Allen wrote a song. What do you think about it? Adrian Agard, what do you think about this song? But the fact about the matter is that it's a walk of humility where you must understand that you do not know everything, and you can't walk this road alone.
Sure.
And that's the bottom line.
I can think about the person who has this awesome song, that voice, that it captivate people, that when they open their mouth to sing, they can hear the chords right. And there are people that say, full of essence because of how it sounds. You can raise my skin, goosebumps. Wow, you're so anointed because of the way you can, articulate the thing. And then you might hear somebody bawl out when that person is on the stage, and one might say they feel the anointing of God and thing. Now, I'm not saying that that's not the case. But when I think about such a person, even if God is moving in your life to that extent where persons or, demonic powers are being subdued as a result of you opening your mouth and proclaiming what God has said, at the end of the day, if your name is not written in the Lamb's Book of Life, I tell you, you're just wasting your time. Because Christ's word tells us this, that, don't rejoice because the spirits, they respect you. Me put in my own word, Bishop Noah saying, you understand? Because God has given us the power to trample upon snakes and scorpions and over all the works of the enemy. He says to us, don't be happy so much, that the spirits, right? They respect you or they're subject to you. But rejoice that your name is written in the book of life. And if people are, whether you're singing dancehall, soca, reggae, whatever genre, and you reach to a point where you start praying and you see all of that. But if you're not in right standing with God, you're only wasting your time. The true essence is not only, in my opinion, is not only what you put out and how people who are liberated by it. But at the end of the day, is are you making your soul right with God? What's your motive? Is it only that people be saved? What about you too? I'm not saying be selfish, but I'm also saying to you that you should still think about when you leave this place, how you're going to live your life. You're talking about worship. Is your heart clean? Are you that pure individual? So when you on that stage that you present, I'm not saying that God will not work through you. He still might. At the end of the day, he's God and he does whatever he wants. So I'm saying to the artists and the people that are creating music and song and so forth, you must measure up your life. Whether you are a producer, anybody doing music, make sure that you and God have it right. And that's me. I think that's my closing statement.
That's a very important point that you're making. And when it was asked earlier about how we select artists, and sometimes we have artists here, they arrive in the island and stuff, and you see some things that you won't worry about. I've been on more than one occasion, at least two of our events that I could remember, that I had cause to pull an artist aside and to say, look, I've observed, we're aware of some things that we have seen that we're concerned about. Are you really prepared to minister to these people who are out there? And one, it had to do with something that had happened at the hotel, because the feedback that we were getting wasn't positive. And it was the person's manager whose behavior wasn't consistent with what we expected. And he said, when you leave here, we got to deal with that. So I want to know if you have changed. Are you still the same person that shared with us last year? And are you, or what's going on? So we had to have that chat before the person went on stage. And the manager had to apologize, go back to the hotel and make restitution with the people there, with the way the behavior that he displayed, because it was not consistent with the Christian message. And I'm not afraid to confront an artist like that. Another one, we're at Kensington Oval ready to go, and a behavior over a check disturbed me. And I had to go to her husband and said, is your wife in a state of mind to minister to these people who are out there? And he had to assure me that, yeah, they got over it, whatever it was. We had a good night. But those are things that are important. How are you living? And what is it that we are seeing in your behavior off the stage that suggests to us that you, like these two disciples, Peter and John, that people could say that they were unschooled, ordinary men. They were astonished, and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. What is it about what you do that makes us feel that way? When we see you on stage, we can think that you spent some time with Jesus. Or are we seeing things that suggest that you've been spending time elsewhere? You know, then we have to question how serious you are about this ministry that you say that you're coming to do. And I think all of us who have responsibility, whether we're pastors, leaders at various levels, or we even manage an event that is a Christian event, I've been concerned about some of the things that we see. We have to develop things like a dress code and communicate that to the artists, because some of the stuff that I'm seeing people parading in doesn't suggest to me that they understand anything about modesty among some of the women. So these are things that now, as an event producer, I got to have an eye out for, because I want to see what is coming off of that stage. People look at it. What is it that they're seeing? And are there things that are distracting from that message? You may have a song that's singing really beautifully. I remember we took a young lady with us to St. Vincent once, and the way she came up attired, we were at a political meeting, and all the eyes were on this outfit that she was wearing. Nobody heard anything about the gospel from her that night. And these are things that these are things that we have to be concerned about. You have to have your eyes up for, and not be afraid to talk to people about them, and to be able to make sure as much as you can that what people present, and when they come to you, to understand what are the standards. And I think that the gatekeepers are people's leaders and pastors who will vet some of the lyrics of the songs, who will pay attention to what people are putting out there, are bringing. And some artists, they ought to be in a place where they can get that kind of advice. I hope that they are. But you can always tell when they don't get that advice, because it ends up on radio, it ends up on the stage, and it doesn't look good.
Yeah. One thing I want to say, beginning of the show, Sabi said we are the salt. And as we are the salt, the point which I was making before was, we have, or people outside have to differentiate us from the world, whether it's music, whether it's attire, whether it's just us being us as Christians. And no matter the genre, as I was talking to Sabi earlier on, for me, people that say, okay, Lucifer was in charge of music, and nobody's debating that. Yes, we all know that. But one important fact we need to remember is God created Lucifer. He's the creator. He's the creator, the music, the strings, the everything. He is the creator, ultimate creator, hands down. And that's something we have to remember. Now, one of the things is the lyrics, why we have to be so important with the lyrics and the scriptural undergirding. As I think I sent somebody a link, I was watching a little thing on Facebook where a fellow was saying, context biblically, we have to be so careful about. He said he saw the post where, I will give it to you if you kneel down and worship me. And he said he opened the Facebook comments. And he said all these Christians were like, yes, yes, hands up, I'll worship, going down. He said there was hundreds of people commenting. He said these people didn't even realize it was a part when the devil was tempting God. It wasn't God speaking. And they were saying, yes, we'll worship because of the context. They didn't even understand. So they thought that little clip sounded well. And they took it for something different, not even understanding where it came from. So we as Christians need to be so careful with the words we listen and get into our system. Because I am sure people here that's wake up to use the bathroom 3 o'clock and TikTok music that's be playing in their head. I am positively hands down to tell you, TikTok plays that's be playing in your head. And one of them is something good is going to happen in this year. We all know it. Where's the scriptural undergirding? As somebody, we were carrying on a topic. Every Christian now is singing about money and the finances and the prosperity. But where's the prosperity in our spiritual growth, in our prayer life? And I'm not singing to be boring, as the youth will say. But it's just something we have to watch in context and be careful what we have entered into our souls. Because when we play it on the strings or the harmony, as Bishop played, it enters. And the devil ain't stupid, because he will pair those lyrics with the exact harmony to enter your soul. And it will stay if you allow it. So I'm just saying we have to be careful, because I'm a lover of music, and I also, it's something I had to do work on and be very careful about what I listen. Because you find it and then you start to act it out in your life. Simple as it may seem, you start to act it out, you start to manifest in your life. And that's a whole different other topic. But I will leave it to that. I'll leave it to that. I'll leave it to that. So who else have something to close off with?
So, Mr. Sabi, is there going to be part 2?
Well, part 2 is already, prophesied.
Yes, read.
All right, so Adrian Agard, will you be on set with that next week?
Yes, I put it
I
in.
want to-
Will you be on set with us next week? Next week, Thursday, sir.
You'll see.
She was the one in the spot.
You seem not to remember. You're not going to commit yourself to some problems, some challenges. I want to remind you that you have a festival to be at in May, at the end of May, right? Which I'm working on right now. So I will see what I can do, though. Even if I don't spend the full time with you and I can pop in, I would love to. It's really been good to interact, to hear different views, and to share this time with you. It's
Somebody said in the comments they want you back.
Somebody said not only that, we want you to talk a bit about the festival this year, what people, what people is to expect. So we didn't have time to deal with that. And I actually wanted to ask you the question, since you started Gospel Fest, I think it's 1993, right?
Yeah.
1993. I want for you to do an assessment in terms of the change in the music over that period of time. But you see, the conversations were in a particular way, so I couldn't really, interrupt that.
So is that a question for next week?
For next week.
Yeah, for next
Pardon?
week.
Okay.
Yeah, God's willing. We know we have our bishop, our well-able bishop, Grenada. Remember, there's a program that's coming soon. Ask Bishop, right? He's an expert in eschatology. Oh, I said the word right.
You did.
We're looking forward to this very, very much. Mr. Joshua Powder, anything you have to say before we come up this day?
I want to say I appreciate the conversation. And I was able to really marry, I don't want to say the past, but marry the history and the now. And also I could see how we could develop moving forward as well. In reference to the topic, I also want to state that one of the things that I learned today is the fact that things operate according to eras. And I was able to appreciate that even more than before, and understand that persons that have critical impact on different generations are most likely labeled as disruptors. I think that was one of my biggest takeaway points. And so you're always going to have persons that do not identify or do not support or have views against. But it's interesting to strike the balance. And for me personally, I would encourage myself to continuously develop a spirit of discernment, and encourage anyone out there as well, especially when it comes to the type of content that you consume. As Mr. Agard said, it's like food, and not everything is nutritious.
Yes, that's slang, you know.
I like that
Well,
one.
you all have a great evening.
Blessings.
Gotta
man.
run.
Same.
All right.
So God's willing next week.
Yeah.
God bless you.
So next
Okay.
week, God's willing, guys, we'll be talking about. I think we'll be going inside the genres. We're looking at the genres. Hey, Joshua, that's where we're going, boy.
Well, Sabi, I know you wanted to specifically focus on persons that are remaking secular soca songs, so I know you would hit off and give context there and call names. So good
You wanna
vibes.
say- Call name. One man say call name. I whistle. I mean, if you might just whistle in the mic today. You never know. But
I
nonetheless,
know people sitting by their radio. As soon as a tune hit, aha.
Yeah.
Let me say Jesus
Alright.
2-3 times and boom, we're
Boom.
inside.
and go there. And I also next week, God's willing, I want to kind of like jump into this conversation a little bit from a DJ standpoint too, because there is a history here in Grenada also with music, and I was about to go there, but the Spirit saying, "No, leave that for next time." So hopefully next week, God's willing, I'll jump there, because there was a time, Bishop, when I was afraid to play music, and I'll talk about that. Like, okay, I'm not a gospel DJ, but I'm afraid to play this song because the people might gun me down. We
You
talk
are a disruptor and you're here to change the trajectory. Always
Right.
remember that.
Mine you get me in trouble until God give me boldness and start businessing. But that doesn't mean I play everything. We talk about that. So next week, there are some things that come in the email and I listen to it and I'm like, sorry, bro, that thing ain't gonna play here. Anyway, Joshua, it wasn't your song, eh? I use it for part of the film things.
Sabi, I hope you're not part of the mafia, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, Sabi, I hope you're not part of the mafia, you know.
No man. It wasn't your yeah. You understand? Joshua, anyway, thank you for the beat, boy. I take it and with your permission, Anyway. Bishop, are you saying anything in your mind before we go, my bro?
The essence, I think, as Brother Agard said, and as Joshua emphasized, the essence is not the essence isn't lost, but the ingredients needs to come back together, and you just need to, it's not the recipe, it's the method, not the recipe of the music, but the method that needs to be fundamental. Some things need to just be placed into the aspect, and as Savi says, the motive. What's the motive behind this thing? So I think this evening was really, really fruitful. I learned a lot, and I really enjoyed listening to Brother Agard. He's like a father of the whole movement in Barbados.
Good. All right, guys. Well, we got another program to jump to in just about now. So, blessings again, and we'll connect next week.
Next week, same time.
Thursday, same time, same place, as we continue with this discussion, jumping into part 2. Maybe we might change the topic a little bit, but at the end of the day, let me say thank you to everybody who took an opportunity to share. Bye,
everyone. Bye, Grenada.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Blessings upon you. Blessings.
All right, guys. So it was an awesome program today. I hope and pray that you didn't leave here feeling like you waste your time listening to this program. All right, so I'm gonna pull this one down for now. Coming back in a little bit.